And get started. I want to welcome everybody here with us today. This 1-hour session is intended to answer any questions that you might have about the ALA Annual Conference and to provide some useful tips for planning your conference experience. We're using the Zoom platform, so we're going to be minimizing our heads during the presentation to provide a better viewing experience. Some of which have quite a bit of detailed information, and then we'll resume the live video at the end of the formal presentation. Basically, this is a 30-minute presentation because we want to leave a lot of room for your individual questions at the end. And we will be posting a link to our evaluation, which we do use to make improvements every year. So first, a few logistics for you. Participants are muted, but if you have any questions, please type them in the chat area and we will try to answer them as we go along or circle back to them at the end. As I mentioned earlier, the session's being recorded and we're going to make it available on the ACRL Connect space, on our annual conference webpage, and we're also going to put the handouts and the YouTube video in the scheduler. So look for a follow-up email as soon as we have all of this content posted. Finally, if you've got questions after the session, please email me at mpetrowski.ala.org. Today's presenters are coming to you from the Midwest, and I'm here today with Rachel Minkin, who is the chair of the ACRL Membership Committee, and Katie Gibson, who is the past chair of the ACRL Membership Committee and a current member. And I am the staff liaison to the Membership Committee, and we've had a lot of fun working on this, and we're pleased to have you with us today. Technical assistance is being provided by Lois Sharp. She will help troubleshoot any issues you might be having. So again, just type in the chat box and she'll be on the lookout. So all of these events are going to be held in the New Orleans Convention Center. And as you can see, the meat of the program, or the meat of the conference, which is the programs, are scheduled Saturday through Monday. The poster sessions are only on Saturday and Sunday. But just jumping back to Friday, I just want to mention if you've registered for a pre-conference or a workshop, those will end in time for you to attend the opening keynote, which is scheduled for 4 o'clock. It's a big one this year. We've got Michelle Obama, we've got Carla Hayden, and we've got the new and first female mayor of New Orleans, LaTonya Cantrell. She will be part of the group. We're still awaiting additional instructions from the Secret Service, and we're going to include that in some supplementary follow-up material that we'll post. We want to give you some idea of when you perhaps should get in line for that event. The keynote will end, and you're welcome to attend the opening reception right after that, and obviously the convention hall. I hope you'll come by the ACRL membership booth at 30:35. We're encouraging people to register to win a free ACRL 2019 conference registration, and we'd love to say hello. What I would like to mention is that, just going back to the opening keynote, there is going to be an overflow theater for people to view the session if the 8,000 seat hall fills up. So you will be able to get a seat. And I also want to mention to you that the ACRL membership meeting and leadership council is going to end early at 2:15 to allow people time to get in line. And you are all welcome. All members are welcome to attend the ACRL membership meeting, which does include lunch, beginning at 12 noon in the Sheraton, New Orleans, and the Bordna room, which is where we will all be. Okay, with that said, here's a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. Geography. We're going to give you an overview of the conference campus and convention center, discuss the shuttle service and registration, logistics, conference benefits, how to plan using the scheduler and the mobile app, and some tips for navigating all the many sessions and meetings in the exhibit hall. And at the very end, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, here you can see the convention center in relation to the ACRL conference hotel. Both of those are starred, as well as all of the other ALA conference hotels. Those stars don't look too far apart, but in the heat and humidity, this is a very long walk. I've attended 5 or 6 ALA midwinter meetings and annual conference meetings in New Orleans, so you can really trust me. I keep trying to walk it. The Morel Convention Center is a mile long, and the ALA conference is always sited right in the middle. So I mentioned the ACRL Conference Hotel, which is the Sheraton, New Orleans, because if you're interested in attending any business meetings of an ACRL division level committee or board of directors meetings or a section meeting, this is the place to go. Business meetings are open to all ALA members unless otherwise indicated in the scheduler. So if you plan to attend business meetings held by other ALA divisions or roundtables, they will be located at 4 other conference hotels, but they won't be located at all of the red dots, just 4 of them. And all programs and most meetings are only an hour long. So after you arrive, you'll want to register, so head on over to the convention center. The registration desk opens at 12 noon on Thursday and opens earlier on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It will be open at 7:30. The ALA shuttle buses are going to start running at 12 noon on Thursday, and they will get you from your conference hotel to the convention center. And trust me when I say this is the coolest and the cheapest way to travel across the conference campus. I mentioned earlier, that this convention center is a mile long, and we will actually be in halls F through H of the convention center. And I've starred the registration area in exhibit hall F. So if you're taking an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi, please ask them to drop you off at hall H. Okay, at registration, you'll receive your badge and conference program book. You will need to wear your badge at all times while you're in the convention center, and you'll want to take it off when you're back on the street. Now, your badge is going to come with a lanyard, but you're welcome to bring your own badge holders. It's fine to recycle. Just a tip. Adjust your badge so that people can easily read your name and affiliation. So the ideal position is to put it on the right side, so when you shake someone's hand, their eyes will go to the right and they can glance at your badge discreetly. Cognotes is the official daily newspaper of the ALA annual conference. We publish it Saturday through Tuesday. Take one and read about what's going on at conference, and it's a good way to keep up with meeting changes. You can find it on newsstands around the conference throughout the day. It's totally free, and it's also available on the conference website. And yes, you will see people in costumes like this on the exhibit floor. You'll also notice people adding ribbons to their badges. Ribbons are both informative and fun. You can wear ribbons, as many ribbons as you like, to show your affiliations with various divisions, chapters, roundtables, and other groups. We have ribbons for first-time ALA conference attendees, and as you can see, so much more. We will have ACRL membership ribbons at our booth, which is 3035. You can also find ribbons in the ALA membership pavilion, which will be on the exhibit in the exhibit hall, as well as the ribbon bar near the registration desk. Now, before Katie takes you on a deep dive into the scheduler, I want to just acknowledge that it can be completely overwhelming to look at the hundreds of meetings and presentations available in the scheduler. So just some tips as you think about selecting your sessions. Consider attending a program unrelated to your area of work or specialization. We always tell people they'll be surprised at how often an idea that you counter in one of these sessions can actually relate or inform your job. We always get questions about conference etiquette. So just realize that sometimes the actual program focus can shift between the time a description is submitted to ALA and the actual presentation. So if it turns out to be not quite what you expected, it is totally okay to politely leave. And likewise, it's totally fine to split your time between two sessions going on at the same time. I think the hardest thing to remember is to silence all of your mobile devices. So many meetings and presentations have what we call open floor mics, kind of in the middle of the aisles for the Q&A at the end. So please use the microphones to ask your questions because these sessions are being recorded in their entirety. But, you know, if a question occurs to you later, you can always email the presenters. And it is also fine to talk to presenters after the meeting if you really don't want to use the mic. I know it's really daunting to ask questions in a large public forum, but I think our colleagues are a friendly bunch and you're here to learn, so don't be shy. And now Rachel is going to share with you some of the benefits you can expect to reap from attending the ALA annual conference.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Yeah, I want to talk about some of the benefits, and I want to start out with like why I go. Why do I, as an ACRL member, go to annual? And it's because I think of ACRL as my home division. And when I go to annual, it's with the thought that I'm going to see my friends, my colleagues who've really become friends. These are the people I bumped into during sessions, so we probably have similar interests. And sometimes it's because we've started chit-chatting after a particularly thought-provoking session, and sometimes it's honestly me leaning over and asking, like, where did you get that cup of coffee? You know, the official term is always networking for these sorts of things, but it has grown to be more than that. There's more of a personal connection, and so I really look forward to seeing these folks. And it gives me a chance to do that sort of face-to-face question asking that I may not be comfortable doing over webinars or on phone calls. There's something different about sitting down with someone to ask them a question, like how do you do that, or what is that, or am I supposed to know about that? And even with my committee members, like Mary Jane and for Katie, like this is a chance where I get to see them face-to-face. So even the committees that I'm on, it's like, how do I get to know those sort of nuanced nonverbal cues, you know, that they really are on board with me, or they're like, I'm off, or they're off, or something's off. And frankly, there's something to be said for sitting down with committee members and new colleagues and new friends and having a snack and a shared drink to really get some information shared. But making friends is only part of this reason to attend annual. It's not the only reason by a long shot. And there are actually official reasons why you should attend ALA annual. This is actually on a website that you could find on the ALA annual page at alaannual.org, but I want to review a couple of them with you. It's sort of going to see your community is sort of a what's in it for you, but it's also what's in it for your library. It's a huge conference. There's tons out there, but you are able to maximize and really use your time effectively at the conference. And it's to a benefit to both you and your libraries. And Katie will review a little bit of this too when she gets into how to use the scheduler. And Mary Jean has sort of touched on this. But this is really a chance for you to save your library time and money. And people often look at me and they're like, how? It costs $1 gazillion to go. No, it's more than that. There's the cost of getting there. But once you're there, you're going into the exhibit halls, you're meeting with vendors, you're having that chance to have that conversation so that they learn what it is that you actually want and need at your library, as opposed to just pushing content out to you. They want to hear from you. And you might be able to talk about the cost of things and why do we do it this way as opposed to this way. You'll be able to do some comparison shopping as well. You're going to become a library advocate if you aren't already. And that's across multiple levels. So it could be at your community level or your state level or your national level, wherever you fit in, you will increase your advocacy toolbox. For me, it was working with and meeting members from the ALA Office of Advocacy that I thought was really helpful. And it helped me connect back into my state. What is it I'm doing at the state level? And I felt that was just really worthwhile. You're also going to grow your library's network. So, you might know the other libraries that are like you, or you might know the other libraries that are in your region. But think about what it means to actually have a conversation with a dissimilar library that's maybe, across the state from you, or across the region from you, or across the country, or heck, even internationally. You have that option. And of course, all of those people who are attending are new network for you as well. Sometimes it's meeting in the hallway, sometimes it's a social event, but it could also be in those sessions. And I also want to highlight that this is not just for those of you who are library professionals, but it's also good for the library students as well. So if you are a student, this is still a great option for you. This is a place where you can attend talks that might strengthen your specific job or research interest. This is going to give you an option to attend talks that maybe broaden and enhance your interest. Maybe your research hadn't gone that way and will now. It gives you a chance to interact and network with peers from other universities and organizations. You might find that your library school is also hosting a reception. It's a chance to get out and meet some friends. You're going to learn how to have fun in a large conference venue. And I know that sounds crazy, and Katie's going to talk about that in a little bit too. But yes, there's sort of an art to getting along at these large events, and it involves putting yourself out there. You're also going to be able to set aside some time to speak with potential mentors and people who are really leading in their fields. So if you are like, wow, that is something I am totally into, go find that person and sit down and have a conversation. Most professionals want to do that with you, so please come say hello. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Katie because there's all of these things you can do, but you need to use your time effectively and in the way that's best for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Katie, who's going to talk to you about how to make efficient use of your time while you're here.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Before you get to the conference, it is really a good idea to come up with a game plan. Like we've said, there's definitely an overabundance of wonderful sessions, author signings, discussion groups, and presentations and social events scheduled during annual. Having a good idea of what's out there and what relates to your work, interests, what you want to go to versus what you feel like you have to go to will help you prioritize your time. And even if you end up changing your plans when you get to New Orleans, having just a rough guide to stick to can go a long way in helping you not feel quite so overwhelmed. And the scheduler is definitely the tool to help you do this. So to get to the scheduler, it's the first link in the navigation bar across the top of the conference website. You don't need to sign in to browse all the available sessions, but if you want to use the scheduler to create a customized schedule, you do need to log in with your ALA username and password. Once you do that, the first thing you'll see is a privacy notice. Be sure to read through how your information is being collected and used, and you will need to sign the cassette at the bottom of this page to fully log in and build your schedule. And before I go any further, I also want to mention that there is a conference app as well. In the app, users can access presentations, exhibitors, posters, connect with other attendees. Like, you can use this features that are in the scheduler too. You can take notes adjacent to available presentation slides, and some will let you draw on the slides in the event app. Today I'm showing you the scheduler, but anything that is in the scheduler is also available in the conference app as well. Okay, so when you first log in and you accept that privacy notice, you're taken to your profile where you can share a bit about yourself. You'll also want to definitely look at those sharing settings that are at the top of this profile page. You have the choice of opting in to sharing your contact information with other attendees and to allow others to see the sessions that you're attending. While some people would rather not share this information, it can be really helpful to have for networking. So if you do have a conversation with somebody you're sitting next to at a session and you can't remember their name, you can go back into that session in the scheduler, see who else was attending, and maybe use, if the photo's there, recognize their face, or get their contact information. And networking is one of the major benefits of attending ALA in person. Seeing the same faces, like Rachel was saying, can really start some conversations and can help you make those professional connections. So once your profile is complete, you're ready to start searching the scheduler for sessions. When you click full schedule, you'll get to this complete list. It's broken down by day. You have tons of options when it comes to browsing and narrowing this list, and I highly recommend you do this because to scroll all the sessions is a little bit much. So if you're interested in a particular subject like digital libraries or information literacy, a particular type of library, or a meeting time that fits with an open slot in your schedule, or even a particular subgroup, use those drop downs at the top of the full schedule to make those selections. ALA and ACRL use a lot of acronyms and initials in their group names, and in the handout materials that'll go out to you guys later, we have an outline of the ACRL groups and the initials they use, so at least you have a rough idea of what you're looking at here and what are some of the different groups within ACRL. If you know a particular group is hosting a meeting or a presentation, your best bet is to use that search box in the upper right-hand corner of the scheduler to find what are the events that that group is sponsoring. And feel free to go to any of those meetings. ALA and ACRL have an open meeting policy. You're free to attend really any of the committee meetings, presentations that are here, as long as, even if you're not a member of the group. However, you will occasionally come across a couple of things in the scheduler that are marked as closed meetings. And that means that only the group's members can attend. And that's usually things like award juries, nominating committees, like scholarship awards, basically things that need private deliberations where you don't want to have an outside person involved in the discussion. So most of the meetings are open. Please feel free to attend, even if you're not a member. And honestly, this is the easiest way to get involved with a group, is to show up to one of their meetings, express an interest, see if the work they're doing is something that you want to be involved in. It's how I got involved in ACRL. It's a very useful thing. And then when you are looking at the scheduler, you can click on the title to get the full description of the event. If you do want to add that to your personalized schedule, click on the star and it will turn yellow, and that will favorite it, and that adds it to your personalized schedule. Clicking on the star again removes it from your schedule. So it's fairly straightforward there to use. Another extremely useful feature in the scheduler is the exhibit hall section. The exhibit hall is really, really quite large and has a lot of substages and presentation areas within it. You can search the scheduler for programs happening in like those specific areas in the exhibit hall section. The Book Buzz Theater features information from publishers on new titles. What's Cooking at ALA is really nice. It's a cooking stage and they do like cookbook demonstrations of cooking examples. And it's always a nice place to sit down if you need to rest and like watch if you're a food person like me, it's entertaining. The Pop Top stage has readings and discussions and presentations on popular topics in libraries. And finally, the graphic novel and gaming stage has author and game creator presentations. And as Mary Jean mentioned, the poster presentations are on Saturday and Sunday, I believe she said. Those also happen on the exhibit hall floor as well. So you can browse those as well in the scheduler. Okay, not to be confused with the exhibit hall section, another thing to think about when you're planning your conference is which exhibitors and vendors you would like to speak to. If you go to the exhibitor section of the scheduler, you can get a listing of the different people who will be in booths on the exhibit hall floor. This could be a company your library is already working with or seeking a service from. The vendors really do want to talk to you. They want to hear what questions you have about their products, give them feedback, what's working, what's not. Okay, so how do you find them? You can see here it lists the booth number for each vendor. The exhibit hall is really large. Hanging from the ceiling above each aisle of booths are roughly it's the one by hundreds usually. So this is the 100 aisle, this is the 200 aisle. Those numbers are up on the ceiling. And then each booth number is, usually it's like a sticker on the floor at the front of the booth to get the number. And those run sequentially along the aisles. So it's not too tricky to track down where a particular vendor is in the exhibit hall. And like Mary Jean said, if you get too confused, stop by the ACRL booth. That is 3035 and get advice from the ACRL folks at the booth there. And they can also help you track things down. And yes, people do want to talk to you. So go visit the vendors. So I should say you can also favorite the vendors in that list as well. So like you can favorite things, events. You can also favorite vendors and get a vendor list as well. So once you've done all of your favoriting, you've found everything that you would like to go to, you can click on My Schedule in the left-hand navigation of the scheduler, and that takes you to everything that you have favorited, whether that's different presenters. You see there's a tab there for exhibitors, so it will give you the list of exhibitors that you would like to see and speak with. And if you're like me, I live and die by my calendar. You can export this thing. You can export your customized schedule directly to whatever calendar app that you use. You can have a Word document, Excel, PDF, so you can have print schedules as well. The one thing, once you've exported it, if a meeting does change rooms, that does not pick up in your calendar app. So keep an eye out on the cognotes for room changes. But if you're using the conference app, the room changes do get picked up in there. So the caveat with the scheduler here. Some sessions that you might want to consider adding to your schedule are the featured speakers in the Auditorium Speaker Series. We've already mentioned Michelle Obama and being interviewed by Carla Hayden. Some other featured speakers include musician Troy Andrews, Doris Kearns-Goodwin, Robert Fiesler, Sally Field, Jonathan Eig, David Ferrero, Tracy K. Smith, Jose Antonio Vargas, Gail Danley, and Viola Davis is the closing speaker. So quite a few interesting folks will be presenting in the auditorium speaker series, and that is also going to be in the exhibit hall. Another session, aside from the featured speakers, excuse me, I also would like to recommend some ACRL hosted sessions. The President's Program Beyond Resilience, Crafting a Caring Organization is on Saturday morning from 10:30 to noon in the Convention Center. And we'll talk about managing change and crisis and how we as librarians can create a caring and healthy workplace. And last but not least, I highly recommend that you attend the ACRL 101 in-person session, which is really a part 2 to what we're talking about today. For those of you looking to get more involved in ACRL, we'll have representatives from the sections and interest groups for you to meet and talk to. It's very much sort of a meet and greet kind of situation. This will be Saturday morning from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Don't worry, there will be coffee. It's a great way to meet other new ACRL members as well as those who are leaders in their sections. So if you can't make it to this ACRL 101 session, another good way to connect with ACRL people is to attend a group's happy hour or social. Some of those events are ticketed, but most of them are not, and are much more informal gatherings where attendees will purchase their own food and drinks. But either way, you'll find a group of colleagues who are always happy to meet new folks. I know it can be hard. You really do. I know a lot of our profession is introverted. You have to challenge your inner introvert to attend to those social functions, even if it's only for a brief time, half an hour. It can be worth your time. Introduce yourself to people you don't know. Find a table with one empty chair and ask, oh, may I sit here? That's a good way to meet folks. And the other strategy is to look for people who seem just as uncomfortable as you do with the whole situation and say, hey, you look like you're new too, and bond that way. But if you're like me and walking into a social or a happy hour where you don't know anybody is just too much, and confession time, I didn't go to my section's social until my second annual conference, you might benefit from the ACRL Buddy program. We match up a first-time conference attendee with an experienced ACRL member to answer any questions you might have, walk you through the how-tos of your first conference, or you guys can plan to attend a session together, so you'll have at least one friendly face in the room. And it's really up to you and your buddy how you'd like to interact. The registration is here on the slide. We have plenty of slots still open if you are interested in signing up for that program. Okay, and that is all I have as far as the scheduler goes.
Well, that is plenty. That's tons of stuff about the scheduler, but it is such a strong, it's a robust tool. That's the word I like to use for it. And I never used the scheduler at first, and then I was like, this is crazy, and my life is actually easier having used the scheduler because I do the export thing to my calendar. It makes me happy. So I have to thank everybody for joining us today, and I really do hope that you're going to come see us in person at ALA. I am going to make one more plug for that ACRL 101 in-person session. The second part of today's session, that is, again, Saturday morning, 8:30 to 10, there is coffee. So even if you who are listening are like, oh gosh, I don't know, tell your friends because maybe they want to come. We want you to come too. Within the week, we're going to be posting some handouts for you as well. These are going to be located around, we'll put one in the ALA Connect. We're going to, in our Connect space, we're going to send these links, a link of this presentation along with the links to our handouts out to our first-time attendees. So we're going to get them up and about so that you will have all of this information in front of you. But those handouts that are going to come with this, that are going to be co-located with this, the first one is a checklist. And it's going to be very useful for sort of like, what is it exactly that you need to be packing in your luggage sort of thing. You know, things like charters and business cards. It's also a great reminder to go back and do some of the things that Katie showed us today. So make sure that you got that scheduler up and running. check that conference planner. Do you want to get an ACRL buddy? Go ahead and work on that. There's the second handout is, I find particularly helpful. It's an overview of traveling to whatever city we're traveling to, in this case, New Orleans. And it's sort of like what to expect for those of us who have not been. And I'm going to put it out there. I have not been to New Orleans. This is going to be my first time. So what does it mean to dress for inside and outside weather, right? If it's super air conditioned in one place and not air conditioned at all in another. And doing things like finding transportation. How do I get from the airport to my hotel? How do I get from, one end of the conference center, the convention center to the other? So all of that sort of things like that. I do also want to add that we're going to add this presentation into the scheduler as well. So if you're going ahead and looking at the scheduler, you will also have this in the scheduler. It's very meta. It's really great. Okay. And I do also want to invite you to, actually go ahead, Lois, if you would forward that for me. We have a spot here where I want to make sure we're open to questions. And I also want to point you to the chat box. If you haven't already been looking at the chat, if you sort of hover on the bottom of your screen, you can pull up an option that says chat and bring that chat box up if you haven't. And in that chat box, Katie has posted an evaluation of this session. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and fill that out when you can. And I'm also going to open it to questions right now. So if there are questions that we have not covered for you, I'm going to put my camera on too. That's a good idea. If there's anything that we haven't covered that you would like covered, or if there's anything that you would like us to review, we went through some things pretty quickly. What can we do for you at this time? I personally am very excited to go. I really have never been to New Orleans, so this is going to be my first time.
This will be my second conference in New Orleans, and the food is amazing. Plot restaurants in advance. Okay. I will say that there's so much good food in New Orleans.
That I'm excited about. I'm going to eat from this side to this side. This is what everybody has told me. They're like, "You're going to eat." I'm going to eat.
Yes.
Well, this is Mary Jane, and I have been to New Orleans many times, so I just want to share some really practical stuff with you.
Yes,
One
please.
is, don't bring your new shoes to a conference to break them in, because you will be quite surprised at how much walking you do. And with the humidity, it's just really a recipe for blisters. We want to save you some pain around that. And I also wanted to go back to the 101 program. And I think if you're skimming the scheduler quickly, you'll see the words Convention Center and think New Orleans Convention Center, but it's the Convention Center in the Marriott, which is across the street, more or less, from Hall H.
You know what? I just looked that up because I said, oh, that's interesting. And it was not where I thought it was either, friends. Oh, and you know what? I want to interrupt just a second. I do see there's a question.
I just typed an answer.
Thank you, Katie.
But yes, Hall H. It is a very, very drawn out convention center, and Hall H is where you would like to be when you're dropped off.
Yeah, taxi drivers or Uber drivers, they're going to ask you which hall you want to go to. And if you say Hall A, you'll be at the very end, and you'll have to walk literally half a mile to get to Hall F. So, but of course the convention center, I should mention this, and all the hotels are what I would describe as hyper air conditioned. And I really did ask staff at one point, because the rooms are so cold, why we couldn't have more heat. And the answer was, there is so much mold, because of the heat and humidity, that they have to keep the temperature as low as possible to prevent the mold from being an issue indoors. So I'm actually bringing some wool sweaters for many of my business meetings, because they're several hours long, and it's easy to get chilled if you're not moving around. So I would encourage you to pack an umbrella, because it does rain, and I've gotten soaked a number of times. So that and maybe some sweaters if you're going to be inside. The convention center is also quite cool. So think layers.
I'm kind of stuck on the mold part.
Well, my allergies appreciate the fact that it's cold then.
Other questions? Anything else that we can answer for you?
Well, let me just go ahead and say that the 2 documents that we're going to publish and promote widely have links to lots of suggestions for places to eat. And so you might, if they're mentioned in, for example, American Libraries, that means that you probably want to think ahead and make a reservation, because you'll have somewhere between 15 and 20,000 conference attendees, probably thinking along the same lines. So if you know that you want to eat at one of those James Beard 2018 award nominees, of which New Orleans had a handful, I would suggest making reservations now.
Ooh, that's good. Katie got the actual article in there. Now, wait, no, Katie, no more people are going to see this article.
You can't go wrong with walking to the French Quarter and getting, it was like a $5 bowl of gumbo for lunch one day that kept me full through to a late dinner. So,
yeah. These are my friends.
Well, and just speaking of kind of fun, spur of the moment things to do, because it's, after a while, I think you experience information overload. So you do want to get out and, have some fun in the evening. If you kind of go to the square, I think, is it the Lafayette Square? Anyway, there's lots of the
Cathedral Square.
Cathedral Square. There's tarot card readers and fortune tellers and
music. Lots of music.
Lots of music. It's just a kind of a fun place to be with a group.
I'm looking forward to this.
I am looking forward to being in a warm place, because we've had such a long, cold spring, it feels like. I think the heat is actually going to feel pretty good.
Until you go inside.
Right.
I am serious, though, about the temperature.
Oh,
so if you're sensitive to cold, you can prepare for it.
I have fingerless gloves that I travel with for a conference.
That's not a bad idea.
I should take those right now, actually.
Yeah, I do, because that way while I'm typing notes and stuff, I'm not doing one of these.
I'm putting that pair right
good
in my bag right now while I'm thinking about it.
Well, I'm just kind of looking at the chat, and I'm seeing that we don't have any more questions.
No.
So maybe on behalf of the ACRL membership committee, I'll thank everyone for attending today, and we hope to see you soon in New Orleans. And safe travels, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks everyone.